we are. I've chosen an awkward angle here.
Can I lean in? I'm in a different chair.
Well, it's because we're trying to continue to socially distance.
Which is a bit strange since we're in the same bubble, but anyway.
We are in the same bubble. We are now live. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for quickly joining us in the aftermath of the budget today. And I feel a little bit like the budget will have crept up on everyone because another big thing happening today, and that is alert level 2. So I haven't been outside the beehive. I don't know about you.
I went out briefly earlier this morning to get a coffee, and there definitely were more people around. And I could see what appeared to be a queue at one of the barbers down on Lambton Quay.
But it was nicely spaced out?
Oh, absolutely. Wellingtonians are very good like that.
Separated. Apparently, I should cease to use the word spaced out when referencing...
At least we start that again.
Social distancing, everybody. Some people may not have, of course, registered that there is the big delivery of the budget today. And so that's something that usually a government would spend a huge amount of time doing preparation for, and we did. Months and months of work went into the budget, but of course, as soon as COVID-19 hit, we knew that our budget needed to be part of our plan to respond, to recover, and to rebuild. And so that's what we've done. So, Grant, tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, how this builds on really phase 2 of our plan to rebuild after COVID.
Yeah, so obviously the responding to COVID phase is what we've all been going through together, and it's been an amazing and brilliant job that New Zealanders have done in controlling the virus. And so what we want to do is take the team of 5 million, and we've now got a new job to do, and that's the economic recovery and rebuild for New Zealand. And so the budget today was really kicking that off from our perspective. And as you've said publicly, jobs. And in all seriousness, the reason why that matters is because the feedback I get from a lot of people is they're so pleased that we've been able to get the virus under control, but they know people who are losing their jobs, or maybe they've had their hours reduced. Yeah. This budget today is a plan to be able to deal with that. And so we've started off by putting money into building houses. That's a great example of an area where we've got a problem. We need more houses for people to buy and to rent and to deal with homelessness. But it's also an industry which employs a lot of people, and construction jobs are good paying jobs too as you go on through them. So the plan we put out today said, let's get people into those jobs, but let's also support people to train for them. Yeah. And so we've got free apprenticeships there for the construction industry. Exactly so we can fuel that pipeline of people that are going to be part of that. We've done that in infrastructure. We've done it really practically in the environment area, where we're actually getting on with fixing up things like fences to protect our waterways so they don't get polluted. That's good for the environment and good for jobs. So we've got a whole series of initiatives like that rolling out that are part of our plan to be able to recover and rebuild.
Yeah, and part of that recovery is, of course, acknowledging that there are some jobs that we can make sure are preserved here and now. And so the wage subsidy, big part then of the budget today. We are looking to try and make sure that we preserve, and in this budget we're looking to preserve up to 140,000 jobs through things like the extension of the wage subsidy. So another 8 weeks that will continue to run for.
Yeah, and that's for businesses now who have had a 50% loss. It was 30% at the start for the first scheme. Now we've moved it up to the 50%, and that's really targeting tourism, hospitality, retail, the sectors that aren't quite getting going properly yet. No, in level 2, a lot more activity in the economy.
But we'll need a bit of time to recover.
They will. So that extension to the wage subsidy scheme kicks off as soon as the original one ends, which is about the 9th of June, and goes forward from there for another 8 weeks to help those businesses just get themselves back going again and help make sure that people stay employed. Because wage subsidy scheme so far, 1.7 million people have benefited from that and stayed employed, stayed getting paid. Now we're getting back to normal with level 2, and hopefully in the future level 1, we're going to be able to keep those people in their jobs, as many as we can.
So the current wage subsidy runs through, for those who applied right at the very beginning, runs through to the 9th of June. Of course, it's a 12-week payment, so if you applied a little later, it continues beyond that. But we're providing that certainty that business were looking for around who will and how you'll be able to access that wage subsidy from there. But Grant, one of the things that for me is a real standout in the way that we're responding with this plan is to actually be able to look back in, say, 3 years' time and say COVID was a point in time where we could either have further entrenched problems we already had our housing crisis, our skills shortage, our environmental issues, our child poverty issues, or a chance for us to actually respond to each of those in the way that we generate jobs and respond to the COVID crisis. So for me, 8,000 more public and transitional houses. We actually have housed our chronically homeless in our response to COVID-19,
right.
which is incredible. So more houses to house those who have been without housing, food and schools to support children in poverty and create jobs, free apprenticeships to deal with the skills gap, and the environmental jobs. So it's legacy projects as we rebuild.
It is, and those free apprenticeships really matter. I mean, I can remember at the end of the global financial crisis, or at the beginning rather of the global financial crisis, someone in my family was an apprentice. They were actually in an air conditioning installing apprenticeship, and they got laid off. And apprentices often are the first people to get laid off. Part of the funding that we've put in today as part of this plan is to subsidise employers to keep that apprentice on. Even if in the business there's a bit of a downturn, we're going to make sure that that apprentice stays in there and finishes their apprenticeship. That didn't happen to my family member. They dropped out of the whole labour market, weren't working for an extended period. So we're not going to let that happen this time. We're going to make sure that we keep people in work and keep apprentices training, because when we do recover, we need people with skills, and we can't just magic them up if we haven't been training all the way through.
Any final little highlights that you want to mention? I'm trying to read everyone's feedback as I go. It's always an exercise I fail miserably at, so I'm sorry. We'll take a little glance back at some of the common questions there, and I'll see if I can answer them perhaps over the weekend. But Grant, anything in particular?
I just think it's worth noting the tourism package as well, because I know that a lot of people have been really concerned that it's not just the wage subsidy scheme, it's also...
And that answers you, Robbie.
How we work with the tourism sector from here. So we've designed a specific recovery plan with the tourism industry, and the first tranche of funding for that today, $400 million has gone in, and that's specifically targeted at supporting businesses to reorientate themselves maybe towards domestic tourism for a while, or maybe to another offering, and also to make sure that if there are really important tourism businesses, that we're in there supporting them to keep going. And think about something like Whale Watch in Kaikoura. That's so important to that whole community. It's actually doing okay, but that's an example of the kind of business that we want to be able to make sure does keep going through all of this. So that was a real highlight for me. And there's a couple of packages coming up too, one of which I know really matters to you, which is in our arts sector.
That's right. I mean, the arts has been devastated by COVID, of course. So many of our artists rely on either on the ability to tour or the ability to perform, obviously, in front of an audience, and that's been hit hard. And so we have developed up a package for the arts sector, but we're just going to wait a couple more days before we provide that publicly. Samantha, I think it was you that just asked the question about those on lower incomes or those who might be on government support. Actually, for those New Zealanders, they were part of our first phase of the response.
One of the first things we did.
That's right. So we've always talked about the 3 phases of our plan. The first was respond. So even before we went into lockdown, we unveiled a package that included, from memory, it was $2.8 billion, that included a $25 increase in benefits, a doubling of the winter energy payment, and today you will have seen that we've actually extended the support for those who are supporting children who are unsupported, and it's an old turn of phrase, the orphans benefit as well, plus food in schools. So those are some extra initiatives as part of our recovery package too. Well, I think that probably covers quite a few elements of the budget today, but do keep in mind, everyone, we have put aside a significant fund for our recovery and our rebuild. This is really, as I said, one part of our 3-part plan, so you will hear more for us. One of the key things, I think, the key successes for us in our health response to COVID-19 has been the fact that we've been quick to move, we've been agile, and we've been responsive. We're going to apply those same principles to our economic recovery as well. So continue to keep an eye out for the more we have to say on all of these elements of our recovery plan. But to all of you at home, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for joining us on what is unfortunately an awkward angle that I have. I don't know how else I could.
But then if I lean back,
that's not any.
But see, I can't even see the screen.
Well, that's not better.
Not
So there was really no good way to do this. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for tuning in to see the Minister of Finance's new tie.
We should give a shout out about the new tie. This is a tie, a handmade tie from Stitched, from Claire at Stitched, who made this especially for us, a small business up in the Auckland area, I think.
North, just outside of Auckland from memory.
Fantastic, beautiful tie. So thank you very much, Claire, for that. Which is a reminder too. One of the things that's come out of this whole period with COVID-19 in New Zealand is the importance of supporting New Zealand businesses, supporting your local community. They've done it hard. Please do get in there and keep supporting them.
So when you're out this weekend as part of Level 2, safely keeping your distance from others, do shop local, support local. And well done on not staining it.
Thank you.
Very surprised.
I think.
Take care, everyone.